This is WGAL News 8 at 6.
I need help. We need help.
A day after Lancaster police shooting kill a man armed with a knife, which was followed by a night of protests, the mayor of Lancaster pleads for more funding for mental health services. The shooting was captured on a Lancaster police officer's body camera. Good evening, I'm Ron Martin.
I'm Janelle Stelson. We're following several developments today, including talking to the man's family about what happened before the shooting. Our live team coverage begins with News 8's Meredith Jorgensen.
Well, the victim's mother and sister say the 27-year-old was off his medication and not thinking clearly. They've called for help before and never thought that reaching out last night could result in his shooting death.
Mi corazón me partieron en mil pedazos.
Your heart's broken in 1,000 pieces.
Ricardo Munez's mother cannot contain her grief the day after her son was shot and killed by police.
Directo en el corazón.
They should have come here to help, not to kill, and they shot him straight to the heart.
Megalina Pena says her son battled paranoid schizophrenia for a decade. His sister called crisis intervention Sunday, never thinking her brother would end up dead.
When a person has mental issues, they shouldn't be treated like a criminal. They shouldn't be killed for being sick.
She says they needed help and didn't get it. But now the family wants solutions, not protests.
Violence will just make this issue worse. We need to come together as a people and figure out a way how to stop this from happening.
The family says it's also disappointed that police released that body camera footage of Munez wielding the knife, saying it makes him look like a criminal without the context of his mental health history. Also, just across the street, the Mount Laurel Mennonite Church is right now welcoming people to their parking lot as a place of conversation and prayer for people here in the neighborhood and for this family. They will make notes of comfort and love for the family and for words of comfort and love for the Munez family, and just offer it as a place of peace for people to come in the neighborhood who have been traumatized by what happened here last night. That's the latest here live in Lancaster. I'm Meredith Jorgensen, WGAL News 8.
News 8 also has new information about the aggravated assault charges Munoz was about to face at trial. Lancaster police say in March of last year, Munoz stabbed and wounded 4 people on North Queen Street. Police say in that case, when officers arrived, Munoz was holding a knife and refused to drop it. That's when he was tased and arrested. According to court documents, Munoz's bail was set at $1 million, but a month later it was changed to unsecured, meaning he did not have to pay unless he violated bail conditions. He was also required to wear an electronic monitoring device.
Well, following the shooting, city leaders are calling on the county and the state for more mental health funding. WGAL News 8 Susan Shapiro continues our live team coverage.
Mayor Deneen Sarache said that yesterday was a heartbreaking day for the city, but she said while we await the investigation being done by the district attorney's office, she wants to address what she calls the larger issues at hand.
I need help. We need help.
Mayor Deneen Sarache pleaded for help to address what she says are inequities in social services, including mental health care. She and other city leaders spoke out after a fatal shooting by police. An officer killed 27-year-old Ricardo Munez, who was running toward him with a knife. Munez had a history of mental health issues.
It is a lack of access to the kinds of services that we all, some of us, are fortunate to be able to benefit from, like mental health services.
Housing is mental health care. Access to food is mental health care, and obviously access to mental health care is mental health care.
And President Ishmael Smith Waddell says he can't help but wonder if Mr. Munez had gotten the mental health treatment that he needed years ago, we might not be here today. In Lancaster, Susan Shapiro, WGAL News 8.
8 people were arrested overnight during protests that turned violent, and half of those arrested are from outside Lancaster County. Tonight, city leaders are calling for peace. WGAL News 8's Danielle Woods continues our live team coverage.
Well, we are outside of the police headquarters down here in downtown Lancaster, and you can see behind me that there's a small group gathered at this hour, but things are peaceful and people have been blowing their horns in solidarity with the folks who have signs at this hour. Now, things were a much different story though last night. As you mentioned, police arrested several people, this after bricks were thrown through the front of the police station and the nearby post office, and other damage was caused. In the city's news conference this afternoon, leaders said they understand the protesters' frustrations, but they're asking them to not resort to violence if protests continue again through the night.
We are asking all of those that are protesting to please protest peacefully. Let your voices be heard. We offer ourselves as go-betweens. You can come to any of our offices. You can call us at any time, and we're there for you.
And this afternoon, when Mayor Janine Sirachi was asked whether she was concerned about the protests tonight, if they would turn violent, she said the thought of the question made her sick to her stomach. We're live in downtown Lancaster. Danielle Woods, WGAL News 8.
The Lancaster County District Attorney's Office is involved with the shooting investigation. We'll continue to cover the investigation on air and online. Right now on WGAL.com, we have all the developments in the case, including the entire police body cam video from the protests, and today's entire news conference with the mayor and city leaders.
A Lebanon County couple is charged with killing their 12-year-old son in a case the Lebanon County District Attorney described as one of the worst she has ever seen. WGAL News 8's Matt Barcaro reports.
Lebanon County District Attorney Pierre Hess-Graff says what happened to Maxwell Schallenberger was heinous, the conditions in which he lived deplorable. She says for much of his 12 years, he did not live, he simply existed inside a bedroom closed off from the outside world. According to investigators, the second-floor bedroom of this house on South White Oak Street in Annville Township was the only place 12-year-old Maxwell Schallenberger ever knew. The Lebanon County DA says locks were installed on the doors to keep him inside. There was no furniture, no lights, the windows were screwed shut, and drapes duct taped to the wall.
That little boy in his suffering could not see out. The community, even if it knew to look for him, could not see in. And that child died suffering entirely alone in the darkness.
Detectives charged the child's biological father, Scott Schallenberger, and Kimberly Maurer, Scott's fiance, for starving, neglecting, abusing, and ultimately killing the 12-year-old. Police say the child was never enrolled in school, hadn't been to a doctor in a decade, and was severely malnourished, with his body in bed covered in his own waste.
To have a 12-year-old child, a gift to this world, left in that condition, treated in that manner for such a substantial period of time, it's one of the worst, if not the worst, I've ever seen.
A neighbor called authorities to tell them about the child, and that's how police found out he even existed. Schallenberger and Maurer had other children together. They lived at the house with them, and the DA says those children appeared to be happy and healthy. The parents are being held in the Lebanon County Prison without bail. In Annville Township, I'm Matt Barcaro, WGAL News 8.
York police are investigating a shooting late Saturday night. A 25-year-old man was wounded. Officers were called to an area near the intersection of St. Paul Street and Park Place for a report of shots fired. The victim was dropped off at the hospital a short time later and is expected to recover.
Here is the latest on the coronavirus in Pennsylvania. The state health department is reporting 1,258 new cases since Saturday. There have now been more than 145,000 cases statewide. The state also reported 7 more deaths. 7,869 people have died. In the Susquehanna Valley, York County continues to spike with 92 cases on top of 129 Saturday. Lancaster, 52. Cumberland and Lebanon each had 24. Dauphin, 21. Franklin County had 16 new cases. The rest of the Susquehanna Valley saw just single-digit increases.
The York County Prison now says it has had 315 positive cases since the start of the pandemic. Last Wednesday, the prison reported 222 inmates had tested positive. A spokesman says 238 inmates have recovered. No one is hospitalized.
Well, the state health secretary is reporting a significant spike in the number of 18 to 24-year-olds testing positive. Dr. Rachel Levine thinks it's because colleges across Pennsylvania are now back in session. She's also concerned college students are going to pass the virus to others in their communities.
The virus has passed through every societal barrier because asymptomatic individuals can and do unknowingly and unintentionally infect others.
Dr. Levine is calling on college students to isolate if they test positive, even if they do not feel sick. She also reminds them to wear masks, practice social distancing, and avoid large gatherings.
A federal judge has ruled that Governor Tom Wolf's coronavirus restrictions are unconstitutional. The U.S. District Judge sided with Republican office holders and small business owners who fought against the orders requiring people to stay at home, limiting the size of gatherings, and the order for non-life-sustaining businesses to shut down. The counties involved are Butler, Greene, Fayette, and Washington. The governor's office says it is disappointed with the results and will seek a stay of the decision and file an appeal.
A former U.S. attorney and Pennsylvania congressman says there is an illegal casino operating in Lancaster and he wants it shut down. Former Congressman Tom Marino is now an executive with a company called Pace-O-Matic, which makes what it calls legal skill games. Today, Marino stood in front of Largo of Lancaster on Columbia Avenue, which he called a large mini casino, which he claims is using illegal gambling machines.
Casinos are licensed by the state of Pennsylvania to have slot machines. This business is not. Businesses like this have to be eliminated.
Marino, who is also the former U.S. attorney for the Middle District of Pennsylvania, says he has delivered a report to the Lancaster County District Attorney with information on what he calls Largo's illegal operation. Largo of Lancaster was not open today.
Coming up next.
I'm Bree Jackson in Washington. Climate change and the campaign trail. What the presidential candidates are saying about the cause of historic wildfires.
Taking this week for vacation, I'll tell you, it's going to be mainly dry. It's going to be pretty comfortable throughout all the week and even a little bit of a fall-like feeling, especially as we go toward the weekend. I'll have all the details in that updated 7-day coming up.
Continuing coverage of the deadly police shooting and the protests that followed. Last night, Lancaster police shot and killed Ricardo Munoz, who was armed with a knife. WGAL News 8 was there early this morning when some folks set fire to a dumpster. The police station, post office, and other businesses were damaged. During a news conference today, city leaders called for calm.
This is a difficult situation. People have the right to be angry. People have the right to have questions. People have the right to want to protest. But we plead with those who are committing violence in our city to property and to people that this would cease. We love our city. Our effort is to create a model city for others to emulate. But if outside agitators or even inside agitators would take advantage of that anger and express that anger through damage of property and person, they will suffer the consequences.
Now, 8 people were arrested. Half of them are from outside Lancaster County. Crews are continuing to battle raging wildfires on the West Coast, and the presidential candidates are talking about the cause. WGAL News 8's Washington reporter Bree Jackson has more.
President Trump blames poor forest management for fires in 3 western states, but Democrats say a lack of leadership is making things worse. As wildfires rage across the West Coast, President Trump making a stop in California for a briefing and to recognize those fighting the flames. But the president also placed blame on forest management, even though many of the fires are roaring through grasslands and other areas, not just forest.
When you have years of leaves, dried leaves on the ground, it just sets it up. It's really a fuel for a fire. So they have to do something about it.
California officials acknowledge that's part of the problem, but point to climate change as an increasing factor. The president showing skepticism.
It'll start getting cooler. You just watch.
I wish science agreed with you.
Well, I don't think science knows, actually.
On the campaign trail, Joe Biden criticized the president for not taking climate change seriously.
If he gets a second term, these hellish events will continue to become more common, more devastating, and more deadly.
Biden promising to take action if elected, committing to re-enter the Paris Climate Agreement, reduce emissions, and create jobs in the process.
Good paying union jobs that put Americans to work, building a stronger, more climate resilient nation.
Climate change is the latest issue where the two presidential candidates clash, but political analysts say that's not the issue that may sway voters on Election Day.
Still far and away the most important issues for people are the economy and COVID.
And wildfires have grown increasingly common in California. The state recorded fewer than 50 wildfires from 1980 to 1999. But over the past 19 years, that number has jumped to nearly 300 wildfires. In Washington, I'm Bree Jackson.
Now, the WGAL News 8 Storm Team Forecast with Chief Meteorologist Joe Calhoun.
We are tracking Sally, a now Category 2 storm. Sally did two things: slow down and strengthen through the afternoon, only moving at 6 miles an hour, have been about 8 miles an hour. It's about 140 miles to the southeast of Biloxi, Mississippi. This is a slow mover, so it's going to mean a lot of rain, but it's also going to do this. By tomorrow afternoon, it's still sitting over open waters, and into tomorrow night, early Wednesday morning is when it maybe makes landfall. So they're going to be experiencing at least tropical force winds, if not hurricane force winds, for a good 24 to 36 hours along the coast. And then it just kind of slowly crawls across the southeast, bringing lots of rain all the way up into parts of the Carolinas. So again, rain, probably the wider spread impact from this storm. You're talking maybe 2 feet of rain along the coastal areas because this thing's sitting out there just pouring on them. Even inland, 4 to 8 with maybe a foot in some areas of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Georgia, and the Carolinas. Tropical storm force winds already tonight. Hurricane force winds overnight tonight and could last into Wednesday morning with a storm surge of 7 to 11 feet. Quite a storm, but pretty quiet around here. You notice this haziness? Look at the sun kind of being filtered out. It's not clouds. Smoke from some of those wildfires out in California. 72, a little bit of a northwest breeze, but that's starting to diminish as we go through the evening hours. We'll drop down into the 60s, 40s to near 50 overnight tonight. First 40s perhaps before we get, since we've had last June, 70s with plenty of sunshine, a little refreshing out there for tomorrow. 76 today's high, 67 was the low, but that high is about where it should be this time of the year. Temperatures 70s all across the board. You see what's happening for us. Look, hardly anything. Comfortable weather. Our air is coming from Canada. Dew points in the 40s. Going to feel pretty nice out there. Satellite showing a front off to our south. High pressure pretty much in control as we go through the next couple of days. That eventually sends off the coast. As it does, we get more of a southerly flow of air. Starts to warm up a little bit, heading toward the end of the, or toward the middle of the week. Could be a few showers around Thursday or Friday. I don't look for much rain. More nice weather and even cooler weather going into the weekend. Talk about that and beyond coming up.
Coming up, the latest on a Big Ten football season vote.
And Wall Street opening the trading week with wins across the board. The Dow up big, nearly 328 points. The NASDAQ up 203 and the S&P 500 gained 42.5 points.
Now, WGAL News 8 Sports, powered by Xfinity.
To quote the late Tom Petty, the waiting is the hardest part. Big Ten presidents have yet to decide on allowing a once-canceled fall football season to start up next month. The league leaders got new information yesterday about COVID-19 testing that would allow student athletes to play safely. Football is hoping for an October 17th start that would allow for an 8-game schedule plus a conference title game that would be played just before the college football playoff selection day. And while some are reporting that if football returns, several schools, Michigan and Rutgers among them, could opt out, Wisconsin's president reportedly stated today it'll be all 14 Big Ten teams playing or none at all. The PIAA plans to look into today's federal judge ruling that several of Governor Wolf's COVID restrictions are unconstitutional, one of those being the 25-250 limits on public gatherings that includes sporting events. A bill that would allow schools to set their own spectator limits remains on the governor's desk. He has until next Monday to either veto it or let it become law. We've got opening night of Football Friday. It is our 24th season. Several throwdowns on the menu for you. It's Football Friday season debut Friday night at 11:15. Can you feel the excitement?
Sure, hear it in your voice, Pat.
I'm ready.
Thank you much.
News 8's chief meteorologist Joe Calhoun takes us to the end of September for the long-range forecast coming up.
I'll tell you, this is why you love this time of the year, right? Here in the Susquehanna Valley, next couple of days, 70s with sunshine. Hazy sunshine at that, though, because there is some smoke going to be in the air. More clouds around on Thursday into Friday. I can't rule out a shower, but I think just a weak front. Warms up on Thursday, but cools down on Friday with a gusty breeze and even cooler for the weekend. How long does that cool weather last? Well, I think it's pretty nice into early next week, but maybe just a bit warmer, and it stays mainly on the dry side.
All right, thank you, Joe. And thank you for watching WGAL News 8 at 6. NBC Nightly News is next.
We hope you'll stay with us for News 8 at 10 and 11. Ron and I will be here. Until then, for the entire News 8 team, good evening.